Hey, it's Mirna from Trainers Toolbox. Welcome to the Trainers Toolbox podcast, a place where you can discover practical and effective tools and tips to make your workshops more insightful, engaging, and memorable. You are at the right place if you're looking to become the best trainer you can be and design truly impactful learning experiences. Ready? Let's dive in. Today's episode is for you if you fit in one of these two descriptions. Number one, you're looking to change and fine-tune your career in a way that includes more training, more workshops, maybe fully move in a career of a trainer, or just add on more of that to your job. Or number two, you are a trainer or facilitator already and you want to see how to keep developing your career, being it as a freelancer on your own or being it within a different organization. What is next? How do I keep on advancing it? How do I keep making the foundation stronger? Today, I'll be sharing with you 3 pillars or 3 different foundations on which you can work that will definitely serve as a strong foundation for those next steps in your career. These 3 are shaped based on my experience talking to many Train the Trainer attendees, so many new trainers in a way, and also mentoring in one-on-one format, different trainers and facilitators in terms of their skill development and career development. And very often people come to me with this question because they know I did a bit of a transition from an engineer to a trainer. I'll share more about that. But they come with this question, how did you build that bridge? How did you make that transition? What helped you there? What was important about it? What do you wish you knew then or anything else? And I keep recognizing how in all these conversations, even though they're very different conversations, I keep coming back to talking about these 3 foundations. And that's why I also want to share them in this format, with the trainers world. I hope it will be valuable and useful for you. Now, as these come a lot from my own story and they're very based to my learnings and my experience, I do want to start this episode a little bit different, and that is by sharing a little bit about my journey as a trainer so far. And that will take some minutes because it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short, but it's a long story. So if that's not something you're so keen on and interested on, skip on a few minutes ahead and you'll join me right at the 3 foundations or 3 pillars of your trainer's path. So my passion for training started kind of in a different format already in high school because I was always in love with psychology and with the topics of self-development and learning about ourselves, about our identity, our potential, about learning itself, about memory, about all these topics. And while I was hugely passionate about it, I made a very conscious decision not to go study psychology for 2 reasons. I really didn't like the perspective of university in terms of psychology at that time in Zagreb. No offense to anyone. I didn't really like how it was set up and the way that it worked. And I also really didn't like the job perspectives you would get by graduating from psychology at the time. There was no positive psychology in sight in Croatia. I entered uni in 2001, so a while back. So no positive psychology inside, and most of your jobs as a psychologist would involve fixing problems with people versus developing their potential, which is the part I was passionate about. So I ended up going to engineering instead, electrical engineering and computing, kind of focusing more on the computing side of things. And I was quite excited about that because it involved a lot of very steep learning curve and it was really intense in terms of learning. It's one of the strongest universities or faculties in Zagreb, and it was like quite an exciting learning journey for me. Now, even though I studied as engineering, I fell in love with trainings already quite close at the beginning of my studies. I got engaged in different NGOs, in different international organizations that all worked in different formats with training and this non-formal education from students to students and all these things that were not really covered by university, even though they should have been, that were related to soft skills. And we were designing many projects and courses and initiatives relate to that, and I loved it. That also led me to join a professional Train the Trainer when I was roughly at the end of my studies. So on my 5th year of my studies, I started working already in engineering, and I spent literally my first 6 salaries and they were quite good salaries for the time. I spent them on Train the Trainer, which was a year-long program with like 3 days per month, but stretching over a year. There was professional Train the Trainer, first one of a kind in Croatia, first time that I found that concept in professional circles and not just in NGOs, and that really kind of built the foundations of my understanding and knowledge about training. And today, even though still thinking of these 6 salaries, I can very much recognize how it was a huge impact on my life and really changed the trajectory of where I was moving next. So even before graduating, I started working at Cisco. So in engineering, I loved my work there actually. I was exposed to a lot of training and huge steep learning curve, bunch of very intense learnings. I was in charge of some technologies that were fairly new, so they would be changing on almost daily basis, and it was always a lot of learning involved and a lot of team learning involved and a lot of it was very exciting and engaging in a way. At the same time, it enabled me living in Amsterdam for some years and then having freedom of location already since 2011, and really living in this kind of more location independent lifestyle, combining it with different training projects and with just a lot of travel and adventure in a way. So while working at Cisco for 10 years, I was always heavily involved with different trainings, with different NGO projects from many different youth organizations or professional organizations, working on many different, experimenting with many different topics and skill sets, and just getting this ton of very intense and long exposure to many different training events. And that also started shaping my approach in training. My engineering side wanted very practical approach and things that actually work and that are actually science-based. And I had need to be introducing more and more of that in the trainings. At the same time, my corporate experience showed me how much I want to have no bullshit in the trainings and how much I want to have no, fluff, but actually having real, tangible, down-to-earth things that we can really use and that are relevant for our lives. And I think that shaped hugely my approach, and it also shaped which topics I chose to work with eventually, because that also moved me closer to positive psychology as one of the huge, powerful, evidence-based toolboxes that I could draw tools for all the different topics I would be working for. So I started learning more and more about positive psychology, and with time I also finished the second studies, the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology. And very soon after that, I left my job in engineering. That was, I think, 8 years ago, and replaced it with just full-time training. It was a really difficult decision, but it came from understanding that even after 10 years of being really active as a trainer and in training, I'm still hungry for it. And at the same time in engineering, that very exciting steep learning curve stopped being so exciting. I kind of settled into the technology in which I wasn't really up for starting from the beginning in something totally new, but in place where I was, there was not that much exposure to new learning anymore. And I just saw that path will not take me, that I'm getting less and less excited about it, and that I don't see myself there long term. So I wrapped up the Cisco engineering chapter with exactly 1 week after 10th anniversary there, which is kind of symbolic. Took a year off, went to travel and chase all the adventures after studying full-time while working full-time and kind of doing 2 really big things throughout 10 years. So took that year off, went to do a lot of sailing, hiking, horses, travel, and then kickstarted my full-on career as a trainer like 7 years ago. And I started it in 2 areas. One was Trainers Toolbox. You're here today, right? So kind of train side of things. Let's make training better. Let's make training more evidence-based, deeper, more impactful. And on the other side, Happiness Academy with all the positive psychology topics like well-being, resilience, flow and engagement, positive emotions, and so on and so on. I love the place where I am today. I'm still looking what to fine-tune next. I love the career that I built in training because it's truly shaped according to what I want and how I want to live and what I believe. But at the same time, I do feel some aspects could have been easier and smoother, partially if I knew the 3 things I'll be sharing with you today. So that's also how, based on these experiences, how the 3 kind of pillars shaped. So I hope that was not too long about me. And if you have any questions or if anything resonates with you from my story and you would want to, I don't know, learn more about some part or connect, don't be shy. I'd be really happy to connect. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also connect through Trainers Toolbox newsletter, as there are always emails by me to which you can hit reply and get into a conversation. Now, as I said, when I talk to other trainers who finished Train the Trainer or maybe doing one-on-one kind of mentoring, coaching, very often this topic comes up, but how do I build a bridge? How do I jump from my corporate career to my training career? How do I change from, I don't know, trainer in an organization more to a freelance trainer? How do I actually, I'm doing a lot of coaching, how do I, focus more on training? And whichever of these is, I keep ending up talking about these same 3 pillars, same 3 topics that I would strongly invite you to start building up already before that transition or very, very fast, immediately at that transition. And I'm sharing with them with you today, all 3 straight to the point. It's about your skills and how you're building your skills, about your story and how you're telling your story, and also about your social connections or your network, or who you surround yourself with and what influence does that have on you and on your career. I will go a little bit deeper and more practical into each of these, give you some very tangible tips, how you can work on each of these and what you should be careful about and mindful of. But I do also want to say that there is a handout attached to this episode if it gets a bit overwhelming. Not my story in the handout, just the pillars and the tips on how to develop them. So you can always grab that handout from the link in the episode description and explore them a bit on your own and go through some of the reflection questions. Now, first, and the most important thing to work on is your skills. If you want to work as a trainer and do a solid job and get more work, the way to get that is by doing a really good job. The way to get that is not by reading a book and then retelling it in an officially workshop. For most of trainers and facilitators, close to 50% of our work comes through recommendations. And this is data by a State of Facilitation survey by Session Lab, really insightful and interesting read for all the trainers. So I always thought it's just for me, but through the survey I learned it's for most of facilitators and trainers that most of our work comes through recommendations. And you will get recommendations how? Well, also through your network, but mainly through the quality of work that you do. And I think it's fascinating how most of us trainers, we love learning and we love keep developing our skills and we love in some way to keep growing. But we are not always very mindful and very strategic about developing those skills. So I do want to say, with your skill development, don't stop only at doing more and practicing more of the skills you love, but really focus on being strategic about skill development. Ask, what are my gaps right now? What are the skills that if I would develop them, improve them, advance them, even if I'm good at them, if I would be even better, what are those skills that would have the biggest, strongest impact on my work, impact on my participants, impact on my workshops, and be really strategic about developing those maybe blind spots, maybe weaknesses, maybe strengths that could be even stronger. So with skills development, I cannot overestimate enough. Be strategic. Don't be just, yeah, sure, let me get better at everything. No, which skills, which sub-skills, dealing with which kind of situations, which aspect that is added to your workshops will make the biggest positive difference, the biggest positive impact, and then go full in on that one. Learn, invest in yourself, train, practice. That is the most important element. Everything else follows. It doesn't mean that skills are selling themselves and everybody will look for you just because of your skills. You still need to get the other things done. But without skills, nothing else will work. Now, how can you approach working in your skills? I would suggest 3 approaches or 3 steps. Number 1, get feedback. And I mean quality feedback by people who have something to say. That can mean by other facilitators, that can mean also by your clients or potential clients. But ensure to get really quality feedback on your skill that will enable you to uncover any blind spots that you might have, that will make you more aware of your own training style, that will make you aware of what might be the pitfalls. So feedback is one of the most important things. Second thing you want to do, in order to be more strategic, you might need some frameworks, quality frameworks in which you can really reflect on your own development. What should you have from skills as a trainer? What is important for skills and competences as a trainer? How can I, fill this in, and which of these am I good at? And you're like really reflecting on that framework and prioritizing which skills you need to work on. And then the third aspect of working on your skill is practice. Practice, 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 practice. Ideally in safe environment where you won't be exposed to the clients and messing things up by practicing and experimenting. And ideally also with quality feedback to your practice, so your practice would be sharper, faster, and you would advance faster. And ideally also seeing other experienced trainers or facilitators practice, seeing their styles, seeing other ways of doing things. Goes without saying that this is one of the things that I highly focus on Trainers Toolbox, supporting trainers in developing their skills through all these three things, really strongly, really intensely, with a lot of work, but also really smartly, with targeted work, targeted feedback, in a targeted group of experienced peers or new peers, depends on what you join. And really kind of with quality frameworks that will really take you to be strategic and smart and progress really fast in things that are most important. So if you do want to work on your skills, I would definitely invite you to check out the courses that I'm doing on Trainers Toolbox. You can start with Train the Trainer. If you've never been to Train the Trainer and you are or you want to be a trainer, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's a course that gives you extensive foundations in design and delivery of workshops and courses. And while it's designed for new trainers or aspiring trainers, it's hugely valuable also for experienced trainers who never went through really quality learning process and framework of all the training skills. It will uncover many gaps and pitfalls for you, even if you have some experience already. Then you can also join for this really focused, quick 2-day boot camps for more advanced trainers, for more experienced trainers. At the moment, I'm delivering that kind of boot camp on facilitation and also on storytelling in 2 days live format in different locations around Europe. You can find all the links in the episode description. And we really dive into practice and frameworks and intensity in a small group of other trainers with high quality feedback and really, really building and boosting those skills. And finally, we also work on that in a community that I run at Trainers Toolbox called Trainers Conversation. Trainers Conversations is a small knit community of like 22 up to 22 trainers where we join the community for a year with a monthly call on which we just share, discuss, practice, exchange, feedback each other, share the tools, share the tips, and just work on elevating each other and our skills together. Now, with skills, the most important thing is to not settle for what you're good at, but to really also focus on what are the blind spots, what are the gaps. The second element of your trainer's path or your next level training is your story. And by your story, I mean on one side, your brand, your personal brand, how you look to others, how you sound to others. But on the other hand, also your beliefs and your own view about yourself and who you are, including your confidence, including your perception of your own strengths and weaknesses, and so on and so on. Now, story is so important because story is how your clients and partners will know that you're actually good at what you do even before they see you in action. And that is really important. Your story will contain something about you, but it will contain also something about your work, how you do what you do and why you do it that way. And also about how you think and what you stand for, what are the principles and values in your life, in your work. Now, your story is not an easy thing to work with, okay? Sometimes we fall into trap thinking, sure, we all have this, pitch or something, or website bio about us or whatnot. But your story is a little bit more than that. Your story is also how you feel when you talk about yourself as a trainer or facilitator and about your work. Your story is something that keeps evolving with you. As you grow, it keeps on developing. And finally, your story is something where sometimes the toughest element is also to let go some parts of your story. And, as you're changing your direction, to let go of bits that are irrelevant and find new ways of matching and connecting bits that are still relevant, so your story would really flow. So story and telling your story is not just about your marketing, it's also about your attitude, about your beliefs, and about your evolution as a trainer and evolution in your career. A career switch to a trainer, or even, within training, career switch to different kind of trainer, or to next level, or from training more to facilitation, or the opposite, or from coaching to training. None of these are switches where you press a button and the button makes the switch. All of them are bridges that need to be built. And what builds that bridges, of course, are your skills, but it's also definitely your story. So the most important thing you can do with your story is to get right in and start working with it. And I don't mean design a polished version for the website. I mean just sit down and write your story several times. Write it in A4 format, write it in 2 sentences, write it in 6 sentences, plain spaces in between. Learn to prioritize most important bits. Learn how you tell and explain some things. And the more resistance you feel about this, the more important it is that you get into it, the sooner the later, so you get really comfortable telling that story. So play with it, write it in many different formats, ask for feedback. Come to it again, rewrite it. Ask for feedback by people who know you really well, and ask for feedback by people who don't know you at all, and see what different things they catch. This is a tough one to do. It creates a bit of identity crisis right away. It comes in with a lot of emotional burden sometimes, not necessarily, but sometimes. So yeah, be brave about it, but get into it, especially if you want to shift that kind of career shift soon. You need to get comfortable with telling your story first, because otherwise you lose many opportunities to connect or to get work just because this will be blocking you. Now, I'm not really there to help you and coach you how to tell your story. There are a couple of ways I might be able to help more in one-on-one format or within the Trainers Conversations community if our paths overlap there. But it's not really something that I work with intensely with trainers, not like the skills and the courses. However, I would love us to connect on LinkedIn, because I think that's one place where people are talking about their stories a lot these days. And I hope you are talking about it too, and I am too. And I think it would be a really good place to connect. You can find the link to my profile in the description, and just, support each other with telling our stories and learning how to make those stories better and giving each other feedback. I'll be very happy if you ask me for feedback on some elements of your story, to share some thoughts on that. And the third thing, right? The third thing is our social connections or our network. And I won't go very deep and broad into this one. It could be a topic in its own, but I do want to say this. There are 2 types of people you want to have in your network and you want to prioritize. And by your network, I mean anyone with whom you interact in work or work-like environment. That can be LinkedIn, that can be your newsletter, that can be any sort of social media you're engaged with, that can be any communities you expose yourself with, or even any personal environments if they overlap with work environments. So anyone you come in touch with and it's related to your work. There are 2 types of people you really want to have there. On one side, your potential clients and your ideal clients, very important thing. And on the other side, people who make you better. And I love to call this your cheerleaders. And your cheerleaders can be your favorite clients who recommend you around. And they can be your ex-clients who are still in touch. And they can also be your partners or potential partners or colleagues who are doing something similar but are always supportive and open to share knowledge, to give feedback, to support each other, recommend each other. So what you want to have in that network is not have and not spend the capacity and time of connecting a lot professionally with people who are really not fitting either of those categories. They're not helping you grow, they're not making you better, and they're also not related to your ideal client or close to your ideal client. So what I want to say, do be a little bit more conscious about your network. So with the network or social connections, you really want to look into it a little bit. Who do I have in my network right now? Analyze it a bit. For me, this was a huge gap when I left Cisco because I had a big network and very international network, but half of it were engineers, didn't care about training at all or about positive psychology. And the other half were NGO related people, so trainers or participants from very low budget NGO events and kind of youth events and different events than what I wanted to build now. So while I had big network, it was network of wrong people. There were no more potential clients there. There were no people who could recommend me. And maybe they were cheerleaders on emotional level, but not necessarily somebody who could help me grow to the next level. So while it was wonderful network and many people I appreciated in that network, it was not really useful for my way forward. So I do want to invite you to really think, how can I invest conscious time in building my network to get more of potential clients and more cheerleaders into it? And to really, not to be manipulative about it or like very profit driven, but to be intentional and conscious. How am I building this? What is the best way of really building this? Now, from these three things, a really good question can also be, but where do you start? So you need to build the skills, you need to build a story, you need to build a network. It's kind of everything at the same time. Where do I start? Well, you do have to work on all three kind of at the same time. But here is also the way you can think about it. You always want to work on your skills first. And then in parallel, you might want to work on your story. A story is an evolution and it will involve your skills. So you might want to start from really this creating your story and working on your skills, and then building the network and social connections actually makes much more sense only once you have some skills already nailed down and once you have your story already figured out. So you really want to start from story and skills, and then work on skills forever, and story will also be fine-tuned forever, but then launch into building network a bit more consciously once you have some level of skills and story that you actually want to share, because it will be really hard to step away from your old story if you share it too soon, or from your old level of skills if you expose yourself a little bit too soon. So there you really want to be a little bit intentional and smart. That doesn't mean that your story and skills will not keep evolving and keep getting better, but you still want to think, what am I going public with? I really hope this gave you some interesting insights. I do want to invite you to reflect for a moment, which of these three should you focus on a little bit more? Is it your story? Is it your skills? Or is it your social connections? Which of these are you neglecting the most and how can you improve it? Which of these for you is the key to the next level? And it's all three. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please do like it, subscribe, comment, help me get the podcast going and get it a little bit more visible, as this is some of the first and fresh episodes. And keep an eye for future topics. Having that said, I would love to also connect. You can always find me on LinkedIn, or also easiest way to find me and most direct is to Trainers Toolbox newsletter, where I share a lot of value for trainers, a lot of tips, tools, different ideas and content similar to the one on podcast. So if you're not there yet, do join. Sign up is in the podcast description. And I would love to get in touch and also hear some of your thoughts. Which of the training related topics and questions and challenges or facilitation related would you like me to explore next in the next episodes of the podcast? And if you're looking to build and prioritize your skills, do consider joining me at one of the courses on Trainers Toolbox. It could be Train the Trainer, or one of the advanced bootcamps, Facilitation or Storytelling, or maybe Optimal Emotions for Learning, or engaging with Trainers Conversations community. If you do feel like you want to improve your skills and kind of push to the next level, but you're not sure what is the right experience for you, get in touch. I'll be very happy to jump on a short call, meet each other, and talk about, what the options are and what might be the best option for you. With all Trainers Toolbox courses, I'm really invested to have the right people there, people who are at the right level of skill, right level of motivation, and for whom the course will truly bring value. So I'm not really interested in having people sign up if it's not the right learning experience for them. That means if you think it might be, but you're not sure, it's the right time to connect and actually talk it out and see what would work for you. Hope to see you in one of the future episodes. Keep on learning, keep on exploring, and see you soon. Bye. Thank you for exploring this topic with me. I hope you found some exciting ideas and valuable tools that you will use already today. Remember, they only work if you put them in practice. But then they make all the difference. If you enjoy Trainers Toolbox podcast, do leave a rating and review. It does mean a lot. And if you haven't done it yet, click on the links in the episode descriptions and discover free materials and valuable resources to dive in deeper. See you in the next episode or at Trainers Toolbox newsletter.